Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, head of DevRel for Dremio. And in this video, what I wanted to do is walk you through how to get hands-on with Apache Polaris on your laptop with Minio. Because with the 1.1.0 release of Apache Polaris, which is again currently an incubating Apache project, it added support for Minio, and in 1.2 it's going to add even further support for other types of object storage for sort of on-prem deployments. So this is very exciting. This gives you a lot more flexibility than just using the different sort of cloud storages, but now you can use any S3 compatible storage with Polaris. Again, just for those of you who aren't as familiar with sort of this whole lakehouse app and haven't been hands-on with this before, this video is going to be great for that. But essentially the idea is there is the idea that you want to store your analytical data on your data lake, which is your storage. So this would be your Amazon S3, your Azure ADLS or Azure Data Lake storage, your Google Blob storage in the cloud. But on-prem, this would be using things like MinIO, Pure Storage, NetApp, and whatnot. So again, that's where you would store the data. And the idea is turning that into your data warehouse. So the data lakehouse is taking your data lake, your storage, and turning it into your data warehouse. But there's certain things you expect from a data warehouse, such as ACID transactions, sort of an ease of being able to run SQL effectively, and sort of the ability to update schemas without too much difficulty, and a lot of these types of ability to have flexibility with working with the data in a more, because you have this sort of rigid structure around it, but you want that flexibility of a data lake that's sort of like this open storage that any tool can access. So this is where Apache Iceberg comes in. Apache Iceberg creates this metadata layer around your data sets that make it much easier for your tools to work with the data in the same way it would work with a data warehouse table. Okay, and most data warehouse platforms can now talk to your data as well. So now you can pretty much use any tool, like a tool like Dremio, Apache Spark, Flink, Trino, Snowflake, to talk to your data without having to copy it multiple times, because Apache Iceberg stands as that standard. But you need a way to track those tables and to determine who has access to those tables, to govern those tables. And that's where Apache Polaris comes in as your catalog. Okay, so now that kind of we established like sort of what it is. Okay, what is a data lakehouse, and what's Apache Iceberg and Apache Polaris's role in that data lakehouse? Again, being the way we take the data on our storage and turn it into warehouse-like tables, and the way we track and govern those tables. Let's actually get hands-on. So you can also follow this by using this blog here. This blog here will walk you through the same exercise that I'm walking through. So that link will be in the video description. Also, this blog is going to take you to this repo where you can find all the Docker Compose and the files that I'm using. So I have this code right here. So let me go bring that up. I need to open up that repo. So I'll just give me one moment. Okay, and yep, perfect. We're on the right place. So when you clone this repo, okay, and again, follow the blog for the directions on how to do that, you're going to have two files, a Docker Compose file, which is going to basically spin up our environment, which is going to spin up several different things on your computer or laptop or whatever environment you decide to run this Docker Compose file. Bottom line, all you really need to do is install Docker. So if you're not that familiar with Docker, as long as you install Docker, you should be able to do what I'm going to do next. But essentially what it's going to do is going to essentially create a bunch of virtual computers on your computer. One that's running Polaris, okay, the catalog. Okay, and let me just actually close these windows so that way you can see it better. There we go. So again, think of each service as think of it as like a mini computer that's running in your computer as just a simple shorthand. There's a little bit more to it as far as the difference between Docker containers versus a virtual machine, but not the video for that discussion. Okay, a container for MinIO, so that's going to be our storage. Then it's going to run another container very temporarily to just set up MinIO. And then there's going to be another container that's going to run Spark, which is going to be the tool that we use to run some SQL and actually create and update our Iceberg tables. Okay, and you'll see later on, we're going to tell Spark how to talk to our catalog and to our storage. And essentially, all these separate services work with each other to act like one database. Okay, usually you would just spin up something like Postgres and it just kind of is one thing and it just works. But the idea here is that all these pieces are separate. So that way, if later on I don't want to run a query with Spark and I want to run it with Dremio, all I have to do is just connect Dremio to Polaris and it can then interact with my storage. Okay, that's the beauty of it, that I can swap out the actual piece that's doing the processing because my catalog and storage are separate. Okay, and then they're all going to be on the same network. So let's actually run it. Pretty simple. All I have to do is do docker compose up -d, so that way we don't eat up our container or our terminal. So again, here in the terminal command is docker compose up -d, meaning detached, D for detached. Okay, and again, if you don't know what detached means, doesn't really matter right now. Okay, it's not going to prevent you from getting hands-on. And that's it. Now your environment is up and running. Okay, so now I can go back to my browser, and if Minio is running correctly, I should be able to head over to localhost 9000. There's Minio, and I should be able to log in with the username admin, password, and there I am. Okay, cool. And there's my basically, again, there was that other container that was going to set up Minio, and it did exactly that. I have 2 buckets already, lakehouse and warehouse, ready to go. That's where I'm going to store my data. Just think of them as like 2 little hard drives where I'm going to store my data. So anytime I want to take a look at the data that I stored, I can come back to this window. Now, if Spark's up and running, I should be able to see localhost 88888. Okay, and there it is. Now you don't really see Spark running. Spark is kind of just running, but I also have a notebook server, so we can write Python, and you'll see that Python will work successfully against Spark because it is running. Same thing with Polaris. So the catalog, it's not something we can visually see, okay, but it's something that we know is running, and we'll be able to interact with it with our code. Okay, so I have this thing that's just kind of there tracking, being a tool for tracking my tables, and I have this other thing that's going to allow me to run code against it to do big data processing. So first thing I need to do is right now Polaris doesn't have any catalogs configured. So it's like, okay, I exist, but where do you want me to track tables? So what I need to do is through Polaris's REST API, I can say, hey, create these catalogs. Then I need to create some users called principals. Then I need to give those principals, those users, permissions to what they can do, which means I need to create principal and catalog roles and then attach all those together. I'm not going to get too deep into that right now. I have other talks where I've talked about Polaris and Polaris's governance model. But to make our lives easy, in that repo, you have this file called bootstrap.py. And here is some Python code that you can just pretty much copy it as it is. That's going to do all that for you. Essentially, it's going to set up Polaris and actually even give you the code you need to get started with Spark. So I'm just going to copy that into a notebook. I am just going to run this code. Then if I scroll to the bottom, done. Okay. And see when it's done, and I can see like, hey, it's like, hey, it created my 2 catalogs. It created a principal, which is a user. And there's like the ID and the client secret of that. Again, not too important right now. Again, we assigned some roles to those users, so they have the ability to actually access tables in those catalogs. And they have full access to Lakehouse and Warehouse. Again, all that stuff was done for you. If you want to see how it was done, you can examine the code to kind of see how these API calls look like. Okay. So you can, and then one thing I will point out though is that when we created the catalog, notice that we passed this information here. We're saying, hey, we're creating a catalog. And basically what's going to happen is that it is being pointed to a location on S3, but we're not using Amazon S3, we're using Minio. So you can see here in the storage config info, this is sort of what changed in 1.1.0 of Polaris, the ability to do this, to say, hey, look, there's this S3 storage, but it's not S3, it's actually pointing to this URL. So don't send it to the default S3 URL, use this Minio URL, okay? And we're good to go. Okay, and then the Polaris container knows how to talk to that Minio environment because, and just to kind of illustrate how it all kind of connects, is that if we go back to the Docker Compose, there's environmental variables in the Polaris service that tell it what the information is. So see here saying like, hey, here's where the S3 stuff is. Here's like the admin and the password and username for that Minio cluster. Okay. This is what it uses to know that it has access to that. Okay, so that's how Minio, that's how it uses Minio instead of S3. Okay, cool. But now all I have to do is use Spark, I already got these configs. I can just literally just copy and paste this. I'm only going to copy and paste one of them because it creates one set of these settings for each catalog that was created. We only care about using one catalog for now. So I'm just going to copy this, the Spark code here. Actually, I'm going to use Control C. So I'm going to type Control C or Command C to copy the code. I'm going to open up a new notebook. So I'm just click right over here, create a new notebook. And just so you see the code that it gave you, this is the code that actually tells Spark that, hey, I'm going to do Iceberg stuff. Okay, so you need to download these libraries so that way you have all the information to be able to do Iceberg stuff. In this session, I'm going to be creating a catalog. Okay, theoretically, this catalog also can use, the way these settings are set up is that it also is going to allow you to use Polaris's generic tables experimental feature. So that way, if you wanted to write some delta tables, you could, for those of you who are aware of what delta tables are. Okay, but so basically you have all the settings there. But basically this creates a catalog called Polaris. So you can see I named it Polaris there. I could change it to anything. Just make sure that if you changed it there, you have to change it for all of them. Okay, that's the name of the catalog, and these are the settings for that catalog. Okay. And then just to make sure that it works, it's going to create a namespace called DB. Then we're going to create a table in it, put some values in that table, and then we're going to see if we can query that table. Okay, and if all that works, and give it a second, because now what it's got to do, since this is the first time I'm running it in a fresh environment, it's actually downloading all the libraries that I specified here into the environment so that way it has all that information. So you can see here, it's like it found those libraries, it's downloading those libraries, it's successfully downloading those libraries. Once it has all those libraries nice and set, it can then run the code. Okay, so it's telling me that, hey, everything got all set up right. Okay, and then in a second we'll start seeing the output of the actual code. Okay, now if I were to run this again, it won't need to do all that because all those jars, those Java jars, will have already been downloaded into this environment. So it'll go by a lot quicker. So these blank ones just show you that the simple queries, like this every time we see a .show, it's going to, all these functions are going to return a Spark data frame. And generally for some of these queries where you're just creating a thing, and you're not querying anything, it's going to just return you an empty data frame. So you can see here that I did get returned a empty data frame, which just means, okay, good, it worked. Okay, so we created the namespace, we created the table, and then we inserted some records, and then now we queried that table. Perfect. Okay, so it works. So now going forward, I can just run any query I want just by doing spark.sql and then typing in a query. So I can sit there and say, hey, if I want to insert another record, so I can say insert into. Okay, and let's see, what was that name of that table we just created? It was called example. Okay, insert into polaris.db.example. Okay, values. I'll just call this second value. Okay, and then that should be in parentheses. Okay. And then let's just query that to make sure that worked. Okay, good. So it made the thing. Okay, and then let's do spark.sql. And then do a select star from polaris.db.example. And then do a .show so that way it shows us the results. Okay, and just so you know, when you hit enter by itself, it's going to go to the next line. If I do shift enter, then it'll run that cell. Each of these are called cells for those who aren't familiar with notebooks. Okay, cool. So it worked. I inserted. Now another just cool neat trick. Again, I'm not going to go through every possible transaction. For that, we do have lots of blogs showing you different ways to use Iceberg that you can then now use this environment to practice on your local laptop. You're not running any kind of cloud infrastructure, so you're not paying for any of this. You can practice until you go blue. That's the beauty of it. Okay, but let's see here. If I want to, let's say I don't want to have to keep typing polaris.db. Okay, I can do something like this. Select Polaris.db. And what that does is just changes your context to using that. It assumes that it'll assume that whatever objects you refer to are inside that namespace of Polaris.db. So then, okay, that did that thing. I keep hitting Shift Enter because reasons. Okay, and then now if I do select star from example, so notice I didn't have to type in Polaris.db.example because now it's going to assume Polaris.db from example. And then again, .show. And let's see if that worked. And it worked. Okay, so hopefully this gives you just what you need to kind of get this set up and going so that we can start exploring and playing with like Iceberg and data lakehouses and seeing how all this works. So like there's a lot more that you can do with Spark other than query Iceberg tables, but the purpose of this was to kind of get you hands-on with an Iceberg data lakehouse. So you technically have a full data lakehouse now running on your laptop that you can then experiment and play with. So with that, I'll see you all later. Have a great day and enjoy. Oh, and when you're done with this environment and you don't need it anymore and you want to just get rid of it, it's just docker compose down, and then I would do -v so that way it cleans out all the storage. Okay, so basically next time you run it, it'll be a clean environment from scratch. Okay, so I'm going to shut that down. I'll see you all later.